Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. So today we are here in our physics lab. In our previous lecture, we talked about the physical quantities. We had 7 base quantities, and we also talked about then different derived quantities. So we also talked about the international system of units, and we said that the physical quantity requires a number or numerical value and a unit for that. So we talk about international system of units, and we had the base quantities. For example, we talked about the length, time, mass, intensity of light, temperature, and these base quantities, but we did not talk about the instruments that are used to measure these physical quantities. For example, we said that the first physical quantity that we talked about was the length. So the unit is the international standard unit is the meter, but how do we measure the length of something? So we have, for example, here a meter rod. This is usually used if we have something big, so we use a meter rod, and then if we have something small, then we use this instrument. It's called Vernier caliper, and then we have a screw gauge. Screw gauge here, this is electronic screw gauge. If we have something, for example, we said that if we want to measure the thickness of our hair, we can use this instrument to measure the thickness of our hair or the thickness of the paper here. So this is the multimeter here. Multimeter here that's used to measure the voltage, electric current, and resistances. We have, for example, different types of the thermometer here. We have this is another thermometer here, and I will also show you the physical balance and the instrument, the spectrometer that's used to measure the intensity of light. Now let's talk about these instruments one by one. In our lecture, we talked about the first physical quantity we talked about was the length. So to measure the length of any object, we need a meter rod. So this is a meter rod here. The small divisions you see here, these are the centimeters here. So these are the centimeter, the small divisions here. And the full length of this rod, from the full length is 1 meter. So that's why it's called as a meter rod. So if we have something big, we use this meter rod to measure the length of any object. For example, if you want to measure the length of this object here, the blue object that you see here, so what we need to do, we just have to put it here, and then we just count these divisions here. So this is right now, this is 80 centimeter here. From here to here, it's 80 centimeters. So this is how we use this instrument to measure the length of an object. What if we have something smaller than these divisions here? For example, these divisions you see here. So what if we have something smaller than these divisions? So then we cannot use this meter rod for that purpose. We have to use some other instrument, and that instrument is here, the Vernier caliper here. So this is called the Vernier caliper here. So this is called the Vernier caliper. So we have 2 scales here. One is the main scale, another is this is the main scale here. This is what you see here, the big scale. This is the main scale, and then we have the Vernier scale here. So what we need to do is just, if you want to measure something small, for example, I have this object here. I just have to open this thing here, and then I have to put it here and then close it here. So this is how we measure, and then we have readings here. So you can see, so we have the readings here. So this is how we measure a the length of any small object here. What if we have something, so we have 2 different jaws here. One is this one, and other one is this one here, the upper one. You see here, this is the upper one. So if we want to measure the outer diameter of something, for example, we here see, if we are measuring here the outer diameter of this object, We use these two jaws. We use these two jaws, but if you want to measure the inner diameter of an object, we use these two jaws. So this is how we measure the outer diameters here, and then for the inner diameter, for example, what if we want to measure the diameter, inner diameter of this circle here. So what we need to do, we just have to put this string here, and then we open it like this. So this is how we measure the inner diameter, and then we read the readings here on the scale. So you can see here, so this is how we measure the inner diameter with the Vernier caliper. So this is around 1,000 times, around 100 to 1,000 times more accurate than the meter rod. But what if we have something really small? For example, the thickness of the hair. How do we measure the thickness of our hair, or the thickness of a paper? How do we measure that? For that we need even more sensitive instrument, and that's called as the Vernier caliper here. The screw gauge here. So this is called the screw gauge. So this is the screw gauge. We have here a digital screw gauge here. So what we need to do, so here we also have the main scale here. So this is here we have the main scale here, and then this is another scale, the circular scale here. So what we need to do, we just have to put our object, for example here, we just close it here, and then we read our readings here. So this is a digital one. For the manual one, you just have to take these readings here, and this is how we measure the thickness or the length of a very small object. The other physical quantity was a time. For time we use a stopwatch or a timer to measure something. So nowadays the timer or the stopwatch is also found in your cell phone or on your watches, but in our lab we use this type of stopwatch or timer here. What we can do, we can set 3 timers, as you can see here. So we can set 3 timers. So this is the second. So this is how we do. This is for the second, and this is for the minute, and this is for the hour. For example, if our experiment is lasting for an hour, then we use the hour option, or the minutes, or this is very accurate here. So we have here the multimeter here. As you can see here, this is the multimeter, and with this multimeter we can measure the electric current, voltage, resistance, farad, and also a temperature if we have a thermocouple. But here I have 2 batteries here. You can see 2 batteries here. What we need to do if you want to measure a current or a voltage of something here, what we need to do, we just take these are the wires connected to this multimeter. What we need to do, we just take these needles here, as you can see, so these needles, and then we just touch it to the ends of the device. So you can see here the voltage here is the 2.4 volts, and here if you touch the 2 ends of these needles to the battery here, it's 1.5 volts there. So this is very simple to use. Similarly, if we want to measure the current, we just change it to the current, and then this is how we measure the current of any object. So another physical quantity that we talked about was the mass. So how do we measure the mass of any object? You might have seen the physical balance in the shopkeeper, the old-fashioned physical balance, and the shopkeeper old type of the balance that was working on the basis of, that's why it was called a balance, because on one side of a rod you need to put the standard kg or any standard mass, and on the other side you need to put another object, if you wanted to measure the mass of any object. But here nowadays the digital balance, balance for the mass are available. So we use here. So this is the what you see on your screen is the physical, the electronic balance, in which you can read here. So this is where you read the mass of any object. So right now there is nothing inside, so the mass is shown here is the 0 gram. This one is very sensitive. For example, if we want to measure the mass of this ring here, what we need to do, we just put the mass, this object there, and you can see there it's 13.7 gram. The mass is 13.7 gram. So we can put any other object, we just have to put it here, and this thing will show us the mass of that object. So now we talk about the other physical quantity, which is the temperature. So we have, you can see here, we have two sets of water. So this one is at 80 degrees. So I have heated this water to up to 80 degrees. You can see the temperature there. So this is on the hot plate. So this is now at 79.6 degrees centigrade. So this one is hot water here, so in this beaker. So this one is hot water, and in this small beaker there, this is the water at room temperature. So we will see with the thermometer, we will measure the temperature of these objects there. So this is the conventional thermometer. What you see here is the liquid. This is a red liquid here inside, and then we have a narrow tube here, very narrow tube. You can see a red line there. So this is the same liquid. When the temperature of any object increases, the volume of this liquid also increases. When the volume increases, this liquid is going up and down. When the temperature decreases, the volume is also decreasing then, and then this red line is going down. Right now it's at 24 degrees centigrade, because the room temperature is 24 degrees here. So right now you can see it's at 30 degrees centigrade, but the red line you can see should go up because the temperature of this object is very high. You can clearly see that it's increasing there. Okay, so the temperature of the room temperature, it's at 30 degrees here. You can see the red line there. It's at 30 degrees here. And if I put, because the temperature of this hot water is 80 degrees, you will definitely see the this liquid or the red line will go up. So this is the machine that's measuring the intensity of the light, but this is really a little bit advanced. I just wanted to show you this machine here. So this is, here is the light source on the right side, and then on the left side we have a detector that's measuring the intensity of the light. So this is how we measure it. So this is not the only type of this machine is measuring the visible light that we see here.